Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. It's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. It's Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, and that translates into No BS Job Search Advice Radio. This is a time where I try to give you advice and pointers to help make job hunting easier. Because for many of you, job hunting is a pretty painful process. It's a situation where you're fighting uphill to try and get interviews, to get hired, and it's become hard for you. And it really doesn't have to be that way. Because what I've found over the years of being a search professional is that the biggest issue for most people when they're trying to find work is not professional skills competence. By that I mean you have the ability to do your job. You just don't know how to translate that into the search process. And that's where No BS Job Search Advice Radio, my e-zine by the same name, No BS Job Search Advice e-zine, and my videos and writing all come into play to try and take the mythology out of the job search market. So today's call is brought to you by ConsultingAssignments.com. ConsultingAssignments.com is a site where you can find and fill consulting assignments, full-time consulting positions, temp assignments, temp to perm, and contract to hire situations anywhere in the world completely free. Posting your job or posting a resume is free. Searching jobs, searching resumes, free. Contacting one another, free. There's only a cost if you choose to have your resume or your job featured. $10 for 30 days. Now, you don't have to do that. But, again, if you want to, you can. So, again, the site is called ConsultingAssignments with an S at the end, .com. Now, there's been a number of things that have caused the confluence or coming together for the topic for today's show. And I've read a number of articles in the last few days. I've had a number of people who've experienced video interviewing. So I decided to spend a little bit of time talking with you today about video interviewing. That includes Skype and some of the newer technologies that firms are starting to deploy in order to save themselves time. Because for many employers, they're wasting a lot of time with people who are completely unprepared. And what video does is help them screen out even more people than a phone interview does. Because I remember some years ago when phone interviews were a novelty. Now it's a pretty normal thing. Video interviews, video profiling, video testing are all starting to make an entry into the market as efficiency for corporations and, frankly, for you. So let me talk about some of the scenarios where firms are using them and then go into some basics for preparation. Now, first thing is there's some organizations where firms are allowing you to give, in effect, the equivalent of an elevator pitch. We're not talking about reading off a script, but just basically talking about who you are, what you do, and they provide you with a fixed amount of time to complement your resume. So this way they have a sense of what you look like, how you carry yourself, and how you present yourself. There's also now digital profiles where the recruiter or the employer has a number of pre-recorded questions that appear on the screen where they give you a certain amount of time to read the question and a fixed amount of time to answer them. Now, understand, even if you can't see them, they're able to see you, which is an interesting approach to this. So you want to, of course, be well-dressed for your interview. The classic example of the person who's sitting in front of the camera bare-chested, I'm talking about a male, of course, here. I'm not sure that any woman would do that if there was the slightest chance that they could be observed. But some guys aren't that smart. And they'll sit in front of the camera bare-chested, unaware of the fact that the interviewer is actually able to see them even though you can't see them. Some of these profiles, 3 questions, 7 questions, 10 questions, and they give you one take for it. Some of them will give you a chance to take a second take, but by the second take you have to be on. So you'll read a question, you'll have a certain amount of time to answer it, and if you don't perform well, you're out of luck. So understand that firms, from their standpoint, are just trying to screen out so many of the people that have been wasting their time or just aren't a fit. So, here I want to talk with you about Skype interviews, which is the classic in-person, but a lot of this applies to these other kind of scenarios, and just give you some of the basics about how to prepare for Skype and how to prepare for these. And, number one is obviously you have to have a Skype account. So if you come to my website, there's an article there about Skype interview basics, or of course you can go to the Skype website and sign up for it. Select a name for your account that's simple and the ID is not obnoxious or immature. You don't want to have a name like Rockin' Robin. You don't want to have a name like Hot Mama. You want to have a simple, quality, professional ID for yourself. Number two, and let's start getting more serious here, you want to have a background behind you for any sort of video meeting that's simple but has some depth to it. So if you have a blank wall behind you, it's kind of boring. If you have a print wallpaper behind you, it's distracting. And I think you have to think in terms of having something with some depth. So the classic is having a bookcase with some books neatly placed there, or an étagère with some plants behind you. Something simple but gives some depth to what's behind you, and doesn't give the impression of you taking a mugshot. So also you need to dress with an eye toward the colors of the backdrop behind you. So, for example, if you don't want to do this, you're just going to record in front of a blank wall, you don't want to have colors that you're wearing that are going to cause you to fade into that wall. You need to be aware of the lighting that's on your face. So the ideal scenario is if you're doing an interview in daylight with daylight shining onto your face. However, given that you may not be able to do this, you want to have fluorescent lighting that doesn't cause too much glare on your face or on your glasses. You don't want to have that look that kind of, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Children of the Damned. If you haven't, it's a classic that gets remade from time to time in different scenarios where young children take over the town, and they just have these eyes that start to glare out at people in a numb kind of way. It's a goofy movie with horrible technology, but it was appropriate for the time. So you want to have lighting that is kind of natural and that doesn't cause a shine on, in my case, my bald head, and in your case, your face. So have appropriate makeup. And as I mentioned earlier, you want to dress for an interview. You don't want to be in a situation where an employer questions and decides that they're going to hire you anyway, even though they have this reluctance because you didn't dress appropriately. Because then when they make the offer, it's going to be for less money. So if, for example, an employer makes you an offer for like $5,000 less than what they might have otherwise, well, over 3 years, that's close to $15,500 that you're giving up in income because you chose to dress like a bum. So, be dressed appropriately for an interview. I'm not saying wear a full suit, but dress in a business casual kind of way. Where to look? Now, there are two schools of thought about this, and I'm not completely sure what's right. One basically says look at the camera. Another one says angle the camera in a particular way that gives the illusion that you're looking at the camera. Take a look at both for yourself. Ask for some advice from others. Do a practice session before to give people allow people some input as to what looks better for you, and then choose for yourself. Especially when you connect with the caller, smile. One of the things I found over the years is firms sometimes hire people because they like them and are willing to give them a chance. So you want to be in a situation where employers may like you based upon subjective criteria. And you're not just simply selling yourself based upon your skills. So, smile when you connect, smile at the beginning, then you can go into serious mode where people understand you're being professional. Keep your answers to 30, at most 60 seconds. Now, my normal advice is 30 to 45, just because you want to make the interview interactive, and most people don't listen for that long. But if you keep it to 45, on occasion you may slip longer than that. So, try and keep your answers to a fixed amount of time so that you don't unintentionally bore them. Practice. Speak enthusiastically and clearly when you talk with them. For some people who have an accent, if you're rushing, it becomes hard to understand just because the technology isn't perfect. So just slow down a little bit, but still keep your enthusiasm and your passion there. Lastly, for today, and this one's an important one, no distractions. Ideally, get the other folks in your house, your roommates, your spouse, partner, kids out of the house so that you're not hearing them walking around. The kids aren't breaking into a fight over something. They're not crying in the background. This is true, of course, in phone interviews as well as it is in a video interview. But, just think in terms of what would cause you to fall apart or slip a little bit in the interview. And, I must tell you, I can't tell you the number of times where I'm doing just a phone conversation with someone and one of the children walks in and they're hysterical and mom or dad puts them on their lap and I'm listening to a crying child for the interview. Is that how you want to present yourself to an employer? I don't think so. So those are my tips for today about preparing for video interviewing. Let me now talk with you about some of the new jobs I'm recruiting for. The first one is a consulting assignment that's based in Pasadena, California. They're looking for someone who's a business analyst with a knowledge of fixed asset management principles and skills with domestic and international investment management processes. 3 years of SQL background for Oracle, design testing of financial and fixed income systems, knowledge of the front office for fixed income. Please quote your best rate. They're pretty flexible, but they're not going to spend $1,000 a day for you. And this is a daily rate. It's not an hourly rate. In New York, a director of technical support with a digital firm. So they want to bring on someone for salary up to $125 who's proficient with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, at least 2 years in a technical support role, both delivering services and managing them in the online media world. It's a big plus. Again, get to about $125 on a base plus bonus. A program manager with a business intelligence and data warehousing background to work in Milwaukee. Now, my client is a global consulting firm. They're looking for someone who also has a retail background to go along with the technology. They're willing to pay for relocation. They obviously would accept someone who's local, but they're not open to fly in and fly out. This is going to about $155 on a base plus bonus. If you're qualified, interested, and available in any of these positions, please email your resume to me at thebiggamehunter@cisny.com. If you know someone who might fit one of these roles better than you, by all means, ask them to forward a resume. There are many more jobs available at jeffaltman.com, so come over to the website and search the listings. And if you still don't find something that fits your background, feel free to forward a resume. I just ask as a courtesy, put the phrase "on the spec" in the subject line. While you're on my website, sign up for a complimentary subscription to No BS Job Search Advice e-zine, which, as I mentioned earlier, I publish on Tuesday around midday with advice for job hunters. You can read many of the previous articles I've done for the e-zine, as well as watch videos that I've also done for e-zines and blogs that I write for. You can also post your resume to more than 50 sites. There's access to easy-to-work-with career builder links, Job Search Universe, and Indeed, information about my books and guides to job hunting, as well as other people's books and guides to job hunting. So I hope you found today's call helpful. I'll be back next week with more No BS Job Search advice. Hope you have a great day. Take care.